how are we supposed to downregulate our anxiety? I mean, it's easier said
Yeah.
than done, right, Kate?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That is a great question because I experienced anxiety for over 20 years at least, and I didn't realize I had anxiety. In fact, when I was in physician assistant school, I saw my doctor because I was under so much stress. I called PA school medical boot camp. I literally had 3 tests a week, and you went straight through 27 months. I mean, we had our break, for Christmas, but we went through the whole summer. All the med students left for the summer. We are still going, and it was so intense. The pressure, the stress that I put on myself to study, to pass, all the tests, and I remember waking up every morning and just gasping for air, and my heart was racing. But I also had migraines almost every single day. So I
Mm.
love how you were talking about at the beginning how emotions get trapped in our body. And what I've learned throughout my journey is that, yeah, when I'm under stress and I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself, I feel it in my left neck, shoulder, and upper back. I feel the tightness and the pain, that my muscles start tensing up.
Mhm.
And we'll probably dive into that. But I realized what was happening, why. So now I know when I start to feel that, I'm like, okay, I need to either let go of something, because this happened recently. I had overcommitted to some things, said yes to too many things, and then I realized one thing I committed to, I wasn't excited about. It wasn't.
Mhm.
I felt like I had to do it, and it was draining me. And I started to feel that, and I was like, you know what? I need to let it go. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
But I've gotten to this place. But anxiety at the time, it's like I was seeing all these different doctors and for the migraines, and the primary, the ophthalmologist, the dentist, the neurologist, like all the doctors I saw, they had the same conclusion. All the symptoms I was experiencing, it's just stress. And they treated it differently. The primary put me on an anti-anxiety medication. The dentist gave me a mouth guard because I had TMJ from stress. And the ophthalmologist, thankfully, they was like, your eyes are good, it's fine. Neurologist wanted to put me on an antidepressant, which didn't make sense to me because I'm like, I'm not depressed. But he told me I also needed to walk with my mouth slightly open. True story. Just walk around kind of like this. I'm like looking at him like, how is this supposed to fix the migraines? So anyway, everyone had the same conclusion. It's just stress. But no one taught me how to adapt to stress. They just wanted to give me this pill or this contraption or whatever. They had their own solution to it, but it never got rid of the stress and the anxiety. I still continue to feel it. And no one during that time asked me, how do you feel? How are you coping? What's really going on? And yeah, we look at all these things, school and personal things that are happening in our life as just normal stressors, but it really affects our body. And I always say, like, what happens in our psychology manifests physiologically, you know? And so on this journey, I realized I had to go through this, experience the anxiety, feel the pain physically in my body. And also, it started affecting not only my health, but it affected my relationship with my husband. We were almost 2 years into our marriage, and I was just bottling my emotions. I couldn't express how I felt. And things that he would say would trigger me, and I would end up in a mental breakdown, or we would get into argument and disagreement because I didn't know how to handle my emotions. I didn't know how to express how I felt. And I realized, I'm like, thinking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was living a lie. I was living as this person who everyone wanted me to be, but it didn't feel authentic. So I was living up to all these expectations, putting pressure on myself. And to cope with that, I was a perfectionist. I had to have everything done perfectly to get validation from others, all because I didn't feel like I was good enough. And
Yeah.
so on this journey, I discovered the anxiety I was experiencing was coming from the limiting belief, I'm not good enough. And not only that, then I just started diving in, because as I work with clients, I work on their gut, I work on their hormones, I work on their adrenals, and I'm able to help them get significant relief in their gut symptoms, their hormonal symptoms. Some people would get improvement, and then something happened in their life, usually a stressor, and they would go back to feeling the exact same symptoms, or they
Mhm.
would get significant improvement, but weren't 100% better. Like they still kept experiencing like PMS. And I'm like, I got them on all the right supplements, for estrogen detoxification and support their progesterone, and I heal their guts. I'm like, what is going on? And I, at the time, was still experiencing anxiety and migraines. And I'm like, okay, I did all this stuff. I'm doing the same things. And I'm like, what is going on? And I realized there's a missing link. We need to look at the nervous system, because we have different aspects of our nervous system. We have our central nervous system, which is the brain and the spinal cord. And then we have the peripheral nervous system, which branches out and it affects all our organs. So we can really understand how the nervous system plays a role. With that peripheral nervous system, we have the two nervous systems called the autonomic nervous system, which is the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems. And that is what is affecting all our organs. And because it's autonomic, it's automatic. It's happening without our conscious awareness. We're constantly switching back and forth throughout the day. And you can try to test neurotransmitters and kind of see, but even neurotransmitter testing isn't 100% accurate. And just taking certain supplements alone isn't going to help calm that nervous system. So when it comes to anxiety, it's so much deeper than just like, oh, just take this supplement, just go meditate, because most of us are living in a sympathetic state almost 24/7. And when you're in that sympathetic state, I call it survival state, because your body is sending all the blood to your heart, to your lungs, to your muscles to get ready to fight or run away. And all these stressors are putting us in that state. And we're looking at, different systems and not recognizing, hey, everything's being driven by our nervous system. So when we're in that sympathetic state, it's going to slow down the blood flow, slow down the signals to our digestive tract, to our hormones. It's going to rev up our adrenals, rev up our muscles, our heart, our lungs. It's going to drive up glucose, drive up cortisol to keep us in that state to fight or run away. And that's how we're living our life, in that sympathetic state. And I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, I was in that state for over 20 years. And, I love meditation. I love deep breathing. I love yoga, all those modalities. And I was doing that at the time, but I still continued. Like it helped me in the moment, when I would sit down and do the meditation or do the yoga, it would help me in the moment. But once I stopped and got back into real life, went about my day, I continued experiencing anxiety migraines. But then I realized, oh, there's something more. And a lot of us, have trouble doing yoga or meditation or deep breathing because it's hard to sit still, because our minds won't stop running. And your body can't sit still and your mind can't stop running when you're in that survival state. Your body's trying to protect you. So then I realized, okay, the missing piece is looking at the nervous system, seeing what state are my clients in. Are they in a survival state, or are they in a flow state, which is that parasympathetic rest and digest rest state? Because when you're in that state, your heart rate is calmer, your breathing's calmer, your muscles are relaxed, your digestion's optimal, your reproductive organs are able to produce the sex hormones. So we have less of these issues and symptoms that we're experiencing. And so when it comes to the anxiety, I realize we have to identify, like, what are the limiting beliefs that we have that's turning our sympathetic nervous system on, but also not only that, but what triggers us? What's our stress response? Because I started identifying, oh, when I'm stressed, this is how I react. And that's important to identify these pieces. And then the conditioning, because the reason why I would react that way when I was stressed, I can link it back to what happened in the past and a belief that was associated with that. So it's uncovering these pieces helps you to realize, oh, the body is just doing the best as it can to protect yourself. That's all it knows. When you're in that survival state, it's trying to protect you. And anything outside of it, it doesn't care. So it's using all the energy, using all the resources, to keep you going in that state. And most of us are, living in that chronic sympathetic state. So when it comes to anxiety, that's why a lot of medications aren't helpful. And I was talking to a friend of mine who's in psychiatry, and she told me, she's like, wow, I had a patient come in. They were on 5 medications for anxiety and they still were experiencing anxiety. I'm like, exactly, because no one's talked about their beliefs and their conditioning and the response. And, what are they feeling? Are they processing? Are they releasing the emotions? Are they given the tools to help them move out of anxiety? Because before I learned these pieces, I was stuck in what I call the vicious cycle of anxiety and not recognizing my body. So our bodies are always telling us, hey, something's wrong, something's off. And it's telling you, hey, we're in this either sympathetic survival state or we're in a flow state. So now when I feel the pain and tension in my neck, shoulder, upper back, I know, oh, I'm moving into survival. Take a step back. Okay, am I putting too much on my plate? Does something feel off? So I've become more in tune with my body, and instead of seeing that as a bad thing, because people can just feel pain in their body and say, oh, I've got chronic pain, and go take medication and just,
Right.
suppress it. I'm like, you get curious. That's really what I want people to do, is really get
Mhm.
curious. When your body is feeling a symptom, like, why? Can you link it to like an emotion? Have you felt this way before based on something that's happened in your past? So yeah, when it comes to anxiety, there's so much more that we're not looking at and addressing. And I love, I can't remember the exact words by Gabor Mate, but he says the more specialized a doctor becomes in that body part and organ, the less he sees the person as a whole.
Right.
And it's so true. Like, we need to start looking at the body as a whole, looking at, you know, how are we adapting? How are we processing information? Are we releasing emotions? Why, do we respond to certain things? It's based off of our conditioning. But the good news is like, when we start to have this awareness, we can now recondition the mind to think new thoughts, to feel different feelings, and to respond differently. So now it's like, if something happens and I'm under stress, I can respond in a much different place. I'm more calmer and I get very inquisitive, like, why is this happening? Where is
Right.
this coming from? And it's been such a game changer to be able, and that's what really helped me overcome anxiety.
Well, Kate, I can tell you that every single person listening can identify with what you just experienced because, and like you're saying, it's body, mind, and spirit. And
Mhm.
with what I do with my clients, that's why I wanted to bring in the beginning, the importance of the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. They're all together. Because if you're fatigued, if you're not feeling good, then how are you going to have the brain power to even be open to re-looking at your anxiety in a different way, right?
Right.
Because 97% of our thoughts today are the same as yesterday unless we're proactive about it. Well, before we dive into the pillars and how to really address this issue, we're going to take a short commercial break and we will be coming right back with Kate Vasquez.